I'm making a big old mound here of some really nice sandy soil, and that is for planting an avocado tree. And so I'm going to plant it this spring. So in this spot was a big old pile of mulch. You might have seen the chickens digging in it. So since I knew something good was going to be here, I went ahead and piled on the mulch, probably over a yard of just the raw wood chips, and those have broken down over the last few months. So that it's this really nice material that you saw. I opened it up down to the subsoil. Now, the reason I'm mounding this up really high is because avocados need really good drainage. So you can't get really good permanent drainage unless you go up here, because we just get some heavy rains, Hurricane Harvey type rains. So I've got to get this guy up off the ground. Now, fortunately, on my site, I have some of this construction fill. It's bank sand that was used for leveling the site. There's absolutely none of it on this half, but on the far side where I was planting some pawpaw, just recently is a good spot where they brought in about 4 to 6 inches to even out the terrain. I think when they pulled out some of the old water well industrial features, they brought in this material, and so what a great resource for me. I have sandy soil. So I'm bringing it over here to lift it up, and this is 9 wheelbarrow loads. I'm documenting now because it's about to get dark, and I'm probably going to bring in at least a few more to really try and get this wide and flat. So I pulled away all of the wood chip, all of the compost, and I put this soil to soil, and I mixed it a little bit to try and get a good connection. Now I am going to mix a little bit. I have some compost, so I'm going to mix this in to activate the sand a little bit. Now I don't want to put a lot of the wood chip in because the wood itself might not break down as quickly once it gets buried, but this sand has pretty good flow through it. So it's getting a dose of this nice compost. Beautiful stuff, by the way. So good compost, and then it's going to get a hefty dose of microlife. So it's going to get some fertility added, and hopefully that'll help the worms and everything to go through it. So I've got some nice microlife here, and so along with the compost, I'm going to mix that in, and I'm probably going to end up using about half that container, so about half a gallon, I don't know, 8 to 10 cups. And I'm going to be letting this sit. That's another big aspect of it. I'm not going to do it all in front of you now, but I'm not going to plant that avocado for at least another month, and that's because all of this hot stuff, the high nitrogen, the grass clippings, the little bit of unbroken down compost, all of that could be a little bit disruptive, and I know it needs some time to settle. I know it can still settle. I'm trying to basically establish structure into the soil a little more quickly, and I don't think what I'm doing is necessarily perfect or proven. I think that it's probably close to being a wash between allowing this to be just straight sand. So there's just not a lot of fertility in it. So I'm trying to add a little bit of fertility, and then I'm going to then pile up all of this on the edge up on top of everything, make sure it can catch some water, and it'll have a whole month for all of that fertility to kind of mix and sort through. And then once we're a little bit warmer and clear of any sort of cold, 40-degree nights, then the avocado comes in and has a good chance to take off before it gets dry for the summer. If you don't have awesome sandy fill like I do, I'm very blessed. But if you don't, I wouldn't recommend going out to getting it for planting the tree. I think that you can do it in clay. I have a friend nearby who's growing avocados successfully, and if you if you are removing or bringing in soil like clay and stuff like that to lift up your tree, you just need to give it more time to reestablish air and soil structure, and you need to put more mulch on top in order to do that. So if I had made my mound out of clay, I would have probably tried to give it 6 months with a lot of mulch on top to have the worms work that clay a little bit to get some air down into it to have a better chance. Now I'm not talking really slip heavy clay, don't grow an avocado in that, that'd be silly. But if it's just kind of like decent clay dominated topsoil, then I think you should give it a try. If you do have really slick clay, really heavy, then you probably do want to invest in a veggie bed mix or a planting mix, but one that has a lot of sand in it, that's not dominated by wood mulch or organic matter, because that organic matter is going to drop your tree too low and it's going to mess it up over time. So try and have a sand dominated topsoil if you are going to play with an avocado. It's been about a month, and so it is time to get this avocado into the ground. Some things that I didn't show you is I stacked a rubble wall. On the other side, it's just some logs that were lying around, but this is going to be nice and high, full of life. I had some trouble keeping the chickens out of there because of there was so much bug life. They were crawling in under my branches to keep them off. Alright you guys, the main takeaway from this video is that all of the energy and care should go in before the tree is planted. And this kind of goes with that pattern of sustainability, that it's the upfront highest cost, but the long-term lowest cost. Because with avocado, on the long term, if you don't do it properly, it's just going to die. It's probably the most killed tree here in Houston, because we can grow it, but it's not unless you got green thumbs. And so hopefully that gave you some insight into what it takes to be successful. Now, I didn't pause, but this had some pretty severe root damage. When I was pulling it out of the pot, I noticed it, and that's just how sensitive they are to root rot. I think I put it in a dish when it was on the sun porch, and that was to keep the water right from running through and going up against the furniture. And I think it got damaged in just that few weeks that it was there, not getting watered often at all, but it had a dish that held it there. So that's another insight to take away from it. But get a lot of care for your tree. That guy hopefully can grow out of it. So I saw some white roots, but the entire bottom half of the pot was brown. And one thing that's also for perspective, I didn't water it in. Normally you water in your fruit trees. I know from just in the past losing avocados just how damaging that can be. So there was enough moisture in the sand, I felt like, that I was just going to allow the air gaps to be air gaps and allow it to first breathe, to first stop that rot that was spreading through all those lower roots. And it's going to be a bit slower to grow out of it because of that. So hopefully it comes through and is a strong tree. Anyway, hope you guys appreciate the video, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.